Okay, so we're rolling. I'm beyond excited to be joined again by the legend himself, Jack Zampolin. And I say that I'm so excited because for those who don't know, Jack has been the key person to drag me into the Cosmos ecosystem, right? So back when I was first tweeting about it and getting aware of Cosmos, and you immediately told me like, hey man, you want to set up a call? You brought me into Cosmos, you explained everything to me. So I will be forever thankful and grateful for that. It's been a great, great journey. But yeah, how is everything going, man? How is everything?
It's great. Well, I also want to say thank you. And that was sort of like right at the beginning of the Prop 34 efforts. And that was one of the first appearances I did. And I really appreciate you having me on your show. So, looking forward to doing it again and looking forward to doing more of these in the future as well.
Yeah. So, Jack, we had this interview, the first edition on February 10, right? So that was pre-IBC, that was pre-Gravity DEX, that was I think Atom was around $15, right? So a lot has happened in that time.
Oh yeah.
What are kind of the key things that you would say have happened in the Cosmos space between February 10th and now?
Well, the big one is the launch of IBC. We had that Stargate thing go live, and that was kind of the huge push throughout the entire ecosystem. But since then, we've seen the testing of IBC. Like I've been personally doing a lot of testing of IBC to make sure that we're ready for the DEX. And we've also seen the DEX like come to be to this place where we've got this huge incentivized testnet that we just wrapped up. I think we had around 21,000 active folks on that testnet with around 1 million transactions, just huge numbers for a testnet with fake money on it. Not real fake money, just fake money. So that was really cool. But those are the big sort of tentpole items that we've had in Cosmos over the last couple of months.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna go into that a little bit later also about the Gravity DEX and how it differentiates also to anything that we have right now in automated market making systems out there. Because also just structure wise, towards like the end of this conversation, we're also going to answer some questions from the community, right? Because yesterday I put out this tweet, and a lot of you guys have actually asked some questions. So I think Jack is the right guy to help us with that. But tell us a little bit about everything that you're busy right now. I mean, I've seen you doing the Gravity DEX stuff, IBC. So what are you doing right now? What's your main focus?
Oh, that was really fun. So I have really wanted to for a long time be the first person to swap real value on this Cosmos DEX. I worked really hard to build the first relayer for IBC. So like I really understand how all this stuff works at a really deep level. So as soon as there was a Gravity DEX testnet up that was ready to go, I think I did this last Wednesday, maybe, so about a week ago. I opened up IBC connections with the hub in Akash, moved some atoms and AKT over to this testnet that was like, just running on the internet, and was able to swap atoms for AKT on the testnet, which was really fun. And I was, when you're doing a first of the kind, something like that, there's always a little problem somewhere. And I was asking for some technical support in one of the Cosmos channels, and Bucky and Yelena from Informal Systems actually ended up jumping in and watching me do it, which was really fun. So Bucky tweeted about that. But the DEX is ready to go. You can send assets via IBC to the DEX and trade them.
Yes, I'm so excited about that. I think I already tweeted this out. Gravity DEX is going to be my new home very, very soon. But that's also one that's actually the best thing I love about Cosmos is the people involved, the community, right? You and Zaki and Yelena, and I've heard you all, like 6 people on a podcast recently, right? You're all kind of like getting along pretty well. Maybe in detail, what happens, in those long meetings, probably there's some heat as well. I can imagine, right, with everything that's going on. But I love the mutual support that you give each other. I love it. It's amazing.
I think that we all have a lot of respect for the other people who do this work and who work in this ecosystem. And I think that that's something that we've worked really hard over the years to maintain.
Yeah.
It hasn't always been easy, and we each work for different organizations with slightly different goals, and there's always mismatches there. I've been a part of a lot of heated arguments, but at the end of the day, what happens is we all sort of step back from those things, look at what we're doing, and we're all like in this for the same reasons. And whenever somebody gets frustrated, it's generally a good sign that they care a lot. And that like they're bringing this perspective that they believe that other people need to hear. And you know that's the sort of community and this sort of like style of discussion that we've engendered at Cosmos for a really long time. And as we've scaled the amount of developers involved, we've tried to scale that community as well. And it's one of the reasons why I love being here. And yeah, you're right. We all do like each other and like working with each other. We even like disagreeing with each other sometimes too.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. Right? That's fair.
Yeah.
But I also like how you bring it to the outside world, how you communicate it also publicly, right, in podcasts and shows. And I see you all.
That was really fun. Are you talking about the Delphi Digital one
Yeah,
that we did?
yeah, I saw that one. Yes, yes.
God, that was great.
That was amazing,
If
man.
folks are looking for introductions to Cosmos, that one really wasn't publicized a whole ton, but man, we really killed. We just did another one with a similar crew with this guy, Brady Dale from CoinDesk last night. It was on Twitter Spaces. And that was really fun too. But that Delphi Digital one, especially, I don't know why, but the flow that day was great. And we just like really knocked out some good answers there.
Yeah, the synergy was amazing, and I'm gonna leave a link down below also for anybody to you have to listen.
Yeah,
to it. It's not a suggestion.
I agree.
But at the same time, also invite everybody and force everybody to watch our first interview, right? Because on our first interview, we talk much more on a general level, right? Like how did Cosmos come together, right? Like how did you guys get funded, and the smart treasury story and all these kind of things. But I think now we can go a little bit deeper, right? Because I've been doing a bunch of videos in the past, so I guess my community is also now full of cosmonauts. So let's start with IBC. I mean, you already talked about it. That's the most important milestone probably in the history. And I think with IBC, Cosmos also shipped and delivered the first kind of original white paper, right? So can you expand a little bit on what IBC is? And why it's a game changer and why it's so relevant, and also where it's right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So IBC is a way to connect any two blockchains. When we were building Cosmos, we looked at the state of the industry back in 2015, and we said there's all of these chains, and they're all connected by these centralized exchanges. Why don't we build decentralized rails to connect these blockchains? And that's sort of like that stupid statement is kind of the genesis of what we've ended up building at Cosmos. But we see the industry going this way with the side chains, like the Maddox and the Phantoms from Ethereum, what I'm working on over at Sommelier, all of these just individual point-to-point bridges that are starting to emerge to sort of knit together this ecosystem. We have this truly scalable protocol to really connect all the blockchains. And the big differentiator between that and what other people are selling is a couple of things. One is sovereignty. Each of the blockchains that connects to the IBC network can retain its own consensus, can retain its own network, and still interoperate with the rest of the blockchains out there. This is really different from things like E2 and Polkadot and Definity, which just launched. They all want you to run on their network. And, that's a showstopper for a lot of applications. IBC doesn't make that requirement. And the other big difference is we're live. All of these other things that people are talking about, a lot of the, especially interoperability protocols that they talk about are research projects at this point. Polkadot's been promising parachains for years, but I think we're still about a year out on parachains. Where Cosmos has gone to market and has a live solution running for this type of interoperability. I move packets back and forth between Cosmos and Akash right now just to continue to like utilize the infrastructure, give it a little bit of testing. But the real test for IBC and the real sort of like true unveiling of IBC is going to be this Gravity DEX launch, because we're going to have a lot of people moving tokens over from all of these Cosmos chains to be able to trade them on this decentralized exchange.
Yeah, and I think since the launch in February, I think Iris was the first one to implement IBC. Then you had, I think, Cash, and I also just saw, I think today or yesterday, CRO, right? The Crypto.com DEX. They're also
absolutely. Yeah, Crypto.com is a big one, and that team has been. We have had a lot of exchanges that have used the Cosmos SDK. Most of them have like not really talked to us a whole ton about it and just kind of gone ahead and done it. The Crypto.com team has been great. They've pushed fixes upstream, both to Tendermint and the Cosmos SDK. And they are very, very excited for this IBC world and looking forward to this Gravity DEX as well. And, they've done the hard blocking and tackling to get connected to the IBC network as one of the first 5 chains, which is exciting.
Yeah, I guess CZ, if you're listening to this, you should catch up because your competition is not sleeping, right? And I think Binance also has. Maybe you can talk about that, right? Because Binance, somebody just retweeted this a few days ago. In 2019, when Binance listed Atom, CC was also tweeting that the team was not really keen to talk to us, but we still did it. We did the listing because great tech always wins. So what are the ties between Cosmos and Binance and also the BNB coin?
Yeah, for sure. So the BNB coin is built on top of the Cosmos SDK. And the nodes that, like the voting power and the nodes that run Binance Smart Chain are determined by the validators over on the Binance chain. So those two chains are linked together with sort of an early version of what we're building with the Gravity Bridge. The technology that Binance has built is substantially is just a little bit on top of what we've done, taken and used for their particular use case. But that tweet from CZ that kind of went around last week is about the only time he's ever mentioned Atom. And I think it's just how many projects got listed that were just for the tech like that on Binance. There's just not a lot of them, and I think that's a cool acknowledgement of what we've built.
Yeah, it's true. And
we didn't just as an FYI. I was on the team at that point, and I was like working actively on exchange integrations. We never went out and asked any exchange to list us. Like all of the liquidity that Atom has, like those exchanges listed Atom because we build the best tech in the business. And it just happened over and over again. And the only support that we as a team provided was technical support. And, I was in a lot of chat rooms with a lot of people in the back offices of these various exchanges, just helping them run nodes and helping them understand how the Cosmos account system works and things like that. So yeah, that's a cool little tidbit about Atom.
Yeah, and I always say that strong fundamentals eventually also going to reflect on the chart, right? And getting access and free exposure from also exchanges that recognize strong tech. That's kind of like the organic way to grow, right? Not the SafeMoon and Shiba Inu way, right? Which is investing 99% of your budget into marketing. I think that's a better approach, which is what Cosmos chose, right? But I have one question from Arbatush on Twitter.
Yes.
Linked to IBC. I think you're the right guy to answer this. He was asking, and I'm just reading. Can you clarify the differences between how IBC's ability to connect with solo machines is different from an oracle's ability to connect external data with blockchains?
Yeah, so one way to think about a solar machine is kind of like an oracle, but the solar machine thing in IBC deserves a little bit of explanation. So I was talking earlier about how IBC is this flat network topology where any two nodes can kind of connect to each other. And the piece that you need to do that is something called a client. And one of the client implementations is this thing called a solo machine. And that really enables you to build any kind of system into an IBC node and to send packets back and forth between, let's say, like the Cosmos hub and USDC would be a great example of an implementation of something that could use a solo machine. So these sort of like centralized stablecoin issuers um, using that technology to integrate their systems with this blockchain network that we're building. It is very similar to the way that oracles work within Ethereum smart contracts. So that's definitely one way to look at it. I think that the only difference there is that the solo machine speaks IBC. So whatever protocols are available via IBC are the ones that those solo machines are going to be able to take advantage of. The oracles in Ethereum smart contracts are more like price data feeds and other types of off-chain data. Whereas right now we only have this ICS 20, which is token transfers. So the only thing that solo machines would be doing is transferring tokens back and forth from their closed system into open systems, and then those tokens may or may not have value in the open system. As more IBC protocols become available, solo machines could be a cool way to do interchain automation and integrate other legacy systems, in even potentially Oracle data as well. You can come up with IBC protocols for transmitting Oracle data. So that's a great question and a good insight to the way solo machines work. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's also a great thing to learn on those sessions, for the audience. Also, even for me, I'm not technical, right? So for me, there's a lot to catch up here and to understand, to wrap my head around, to understand the differences between different protocols and different things. But yeah, I hope the question is answered. So that's great. Now let's talk a little bit about Atom, right? So I hear this a lot. People are saying like, oh, it's not moving. Shiba Inu has been moving much more than Atom. I wish I bought Shiba Inu, right? So, and like I said earlier, strong fundamentals are always going to reflect on the chart. How do you see the utility, the use cases for Atom now, also with the Gravity DEX going live, with IBC? What are you most excited for the future now, or for now, in terms of utility for Atom?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I think we sprinted to build IBC. We raised money back in 2017, and all of that money went to build a development team and ship IBC, basically. We still have a lot left over because of smart treasury management and because we didn't just waste it all. But that was the goal of the project, and we sprinted towards that. We always thought that we would find a way as the hub, when we're talking about Atom holders, we always thought once IBC is live, we're going to find a lot of ways to monetize. The first way that we're going to monetize is through this decentralized exchange, which is why I think that the testnet competition that we just did is so bullish for the sort of like immediate term price of Atom. Also, just as a note, if you're into dog coins, that's great. I think everyone likes a little dog coin every now and then, but like this is just kind of a different type of investment. And like if you're looking for dog coin like movement out of Cosmos, you're in the wrong place. But that being said, short-term price action is definitely going to be driven by this DEX. I think that's really exciting. Other things that I think drive a lot of value to Atom holders throughout the end of this year, as this multi-chain continues to expand, Atom is going to get used as collateral in a lot of these upcoming platforms. We see the Osmosis DEX. We see Juno with smart contracts that's going to be launching soon. We see Akash, where you can buy compute with all of these different tokens. Kava, which will be joining the IBC network soon, has all these lending products. So there's going to be a lot of utility for Atom in a lot of these other platforms. That's one piece. But first-class staking derivative support on the hub to allow all of that staked Atom to be used as collateral in these DeFi applications, I think is another thing that's going to be huge value driver for Atom holders. I'm working on some of the lower level components to enable those staking derivatives. but I expect to see that live later this year. And then finally, interchain staking is another huge piece. And this is a lot like parachains and Polkadot, where you can, Atom holders will be providing security to a bunch of other chains, and they'll be making revenues off of that. So, you know, this idea that Atom doesn't capture value is essentially driven by the fact that we spent 2 years shipping the platform before we thought about capturing value. And now, you know, the ecosystem is really firmly focused on capturing value. And I think that with that Gravity DEX testnet, it shows that we know how to market, we know how to bring thousands and thousands of people in, and all we need to do is launch this DEX and just double down on the strategy that's gotten us here in terms of marketing. And I think that we're going to see some exciting things, and that's going to be a rising tide that kind of lifts all the boats in the ecosystem. You know, you were mentioning earlier all the sort of large chains that have connected to the Cosmos hub, and we're having more and more of those. The DEX is really going to affect the price of those tokens as well, because it's going to be this huge new source of liquidity. Atoms are available on exchanges all over the world and have very, very deep markets. Some of these other tokens aren't quite as, don't have markets that are quite as deep, don't have the same reach on exchanges, and Atom is going to become the natural token to trade between. I think crypto.com is a really interesting one in this case as well. Like, crypto.com has great support on crypto.com, but on other exchanges, it's just not, it's not quite as supported. And the DEX is going to be a huge new source of liquidity for those crypto holders.
Yeah, so essentially, DeFi on Cosmos is coming, DeFi with Atom is coming, and that obviously makes it much more functional, usable, and also increases probably the value of it, right? And for people who want to use it, right? So that's great. And I think from my perspective, to add on that, the shared security model, I think it's on the roadmap also for towards the end of the year. I think that's also a major thing. Like, when that goes live, you know, and it helps also smaller projects to really get to the market faster, you know. And it's much more, so the way I understand it is that it's much more inclusive than, for example, what Polkadot does, right? And Polkadot had kind of started with the shared security model from day one, while Cosmos started on the other end of the spectrum, right? Inviting everybody to build their own network and validator system and you know, security model, instead of kind of like building that relay chain as a kingdom and empire in the center, right? And everybody has to connect. So can you talk about a little bit about that, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. You know, they have gone and sucked as much value out of their ecosystem into this Polkadot token and into this Katsuma token as they could. And what that's doing is really choking off growing that ecosystem underneath that top level chain. You see these projects starting to launch, you see people starting to use the technology, but there's not really appreciable value getting used on it. And A, that's because of lack of interoperability, but B, that's because of the massive tax that DOT places on the projects that end up building on this ecosystem. And that's just something that's fundamentally not present. You know, if you pull out Katsuma and DOT and look at the total value of the DOT ecosystem, it's small. I think it's probably in the hundreds of millions. If you pull out Atom and you look at the total value of the Cosmos ecosystem, I think it's in like the $140 billion range. So, and even if you exclude Atom and Binance, we're still in the $40 billion range, which is just crazy. And, you know, when you're talking about building an interoperable network, you need value widely dispersed so that that network has these trade routes. We've known and thought about this from the beginning and bootstrapped the network in such a way that we have strong independent anchors at multiple points in the network. I think that that's where Polkadot is going to struggle with adoption, is building up these strong independent anchors.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people on crypto Twitter, like, there's this main narrative that Polkadot has this massive ecosystem, but if it really comes down to it, most of these projects are still
the only reason Polkadot says they have a massive ecosystem is like, the only reason people say that is because Polkadot just says that we've got a huge ecosystem. And then they point at, like, you know, what are extremely early stage projects or vaporware or things that have said that they're going to build on Polkadot. Whereas there's a list of live tokens running on top of Cosmos that you can go look at now. And there's like 35 entries in there. I think there's another like couple hundred projects that have built on top of the SDK that maybe don't have live tokens yet or don't have the type of awareness that some of these other ones on this list have. Like that's just a fundamental difference between the two projects. Like people actually build stuff on Cosmos. People build toys on Polkadot.
But let's not bash them too much. I think in the end of the day, Polkadot is still, it's still a great project. I still hold some dot, even though I have a lot of dot.
I do like talking shit on Polkadot. It's fun. So sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, I swapped a lot of my dot into Atom because I think that's one of the most irrational gaps in crypto, right? Between Cosmos and Polkadot. I think right now there's a 7 or 8x spread between the two. And I think that gap's going to be filled. So that's also why I'm going harder on that. But so now we talked about how Polkadot works and everything. Can you talk about the shared security model on Cosmos when it goes live towards the end of the year, and how far is it right now, and how is it going to be looking like on a also technical level probably?
Yeah, for sure. There's been a lot of churn with the designs. So as far as exactly what it looks like, I can't give you a great answer on that. But it's going to be deeply integrated with Starport. So this ability to quickly launch a new Cosmos chain and then rent security from the hub validator set is that first user story that we're kind of building this idea of shared security around. And this is, there's a lot of infrastructure that's involved there, and AIB/Tendermint and then informal systems and the ICF are both deeply involved in this effort. Tendermint is sort of working really hard on the developer experience side, building out Starport, working hard to provide a strong IBC user experience so that it's really easy to move tokens to and from the hub from various chains, use the DEX, use these various chains effectively without exposing too much of the sort of like underlying machinery to users. So like that's a huge part of this shared security effort. And then the other side of it is the really hard blocking and tackling of building this protocol design, ensuring that, all of this complexity that is in each individual chain, and then like having one chain follow another chain essentially, which is what this is taken care of seamlessly. And, that's what the informal systems team is excellent at. They audit other projects throughout the ecosystem, and, that team is really excellent at that. So that's sort of the way where the division of labor works right now. And sort of the user experience that we're shooting for is that you as a developer are able to show up, launch a new chain with Starport, and have the hub validator set start validating it. Or not, if not the whole hub validator set, then maybe just a subset. Maybe you've got a few different validators who stake some of their atoms to start your chain. That's really all you need to get started in this sort of shared security world.
Okay. And talk us through a little bit about the decentralization aspect of Cosmos, because, with now the rise of the Binance Smart Chain, people are starting to question the whole fundamental things again, right? How decentralized is it, right? And we've all seen this funny capture on Twitter, with choose 3 Binance Smart Chain validators, and it's all pictures of CZ, right? So how decentralized is Cosmos? There's 125 nodes, validator nodes. Can you talk about that and how it's probably going to be more decentralized over the future?
Yeah, for sure. So, if you go to, I think MintScan has a good visualization of this. So I'm just going to go ahead and drop this in the chat here. MintScan, you can actually go on and see the cumulative share of validators. So, Tendermint has this property. It's 2/3 for safety. So, you would need 2/3 of the stake to be malicious in order for someone to take the network down or cause any issues there. And it looks like that number, there's 22 validators that would be required to collude, the top 22 to collude. And if you look at the list of those names, those are the validators on E2. Those are the validators on Solana. Those are the validators on Polkadot. This validator set is, I think, not only the most skilled, but also the most decentralized in the proof of stake world. When you're talking about decentralization, it's not just the number of validators, and there's a lot of projects that tout large numbers of validators. It's how decentralized the stake is. And what we see in the Cosmos stake distribution is actually quite a bit of decentralization. You see some exchanges starting to creep up in those rankings with Coinbase and Binance, but that's also happening on every other proof of stake chain. So as far as decentralization goes, like, we really do have 125, there's Jack. We do really have 125 different entities running validators on top of this chain, and the stake is very decentralized. So, I would say that as far as it goes on that metric, Cosmos really outperforms a lot of its peers, and you can go ahead and calculate Gini coefficients and all of this stuff. The token distribution event we had was so chaotic that it actually ended up resulting in a fairly distributed token set. We have had some major funds that used to have huge stakes end up selling them and bringing a lot more people into the ecosystem. I'm looking specifically at Polychain, which used to have about 10 times the amount of atoms they have now. So, this is these are the types of things that you need to look at when you're looking at real decentralization. And I think Cosmos ranks really well on that axis.
Yeah, I think as more features get added and IBC gets more rolled out and gets more adoption, Gravity DEX getting more adoption, I think the coins, the atoms get more diluted, right? So does the validator network. So yeah, it's great to see. And everyone who's watching now and has some spare atom, make sure that you delegate to Jack. So he's running
only 5% on the hub. I'm cheap. I should raise commission again.
Bull run vibes. But yeah, so that's great. That's really great for explaining that. Thank you. And let's see, we have some more questions here.
Yes, please. Questions.
Probably the last block before we wrap it up is the Gravity DEX, right? So you already talked about it.
Yeah.
Already briefly touched upon DeFi coming to Cosmos, to Atom. First question: how does a cross-chain DEX like Gravity work, and how is it a game changer?
Yeah, that's a great question. I need to stop saying that on a completely unrelated note. Of course, it's a great question. So how does the cross-chain DEX work? The answer is it works exactly the same as all the other DEXs. The real magic is in IBC, which allows users to move their tokens over to a new chain. And then once they're on that chain, then you can use them natively within the DEX. And that's actually just how it works. Those tokens that you move across via IBC use all of the same code that the tokens that are launched natively on that chain use. And this enables them to be used interchangeably in things like fees, in things like the DEX itself. So that's one of the really cool things about what we built with IBC is these pieces of machinery, these pieces of DeFi machinery, they each live on an individual chain. And the complexity comes when you're trying to, make them live on multiple chains. Yeah. But if you instead have them live on one chain and then allow liquidity and value to flow freely to them, it makes the programming a lot easier. It makes these systems a lot more scalable, and it increases access for them in a way that's just not possible in this sort of fragmented network that ETH is starting to become.
Yeah, and speaking from also user experience, user perspective, it makes it just much simpler, right? Because right now one of the core struggles in crypto, I think, is that if you want to use Uniswap, for example, right, you have just ERC20 tokens, right? And then if you want to have another kind of chain that is connected, you want to trade tokens on another chain, it's not compatible, right? Because Uniswap does not have IBC implemented yet. Maybe it's coming, but so that's kind of the core kind of game.
I'm working on IBC for Uniswap. So. That's what Sommelier Finance does. We're building the bridge over to Ethereum, but also we're building the ability to automate actions on Uniswap on top of the Cosmos chain.
Mm.
So, for example, in Uniswap v3, when you provide liquidity, you need to say, I'm only going to service trades in between these price ranges. And, uh, as crypto markets move, you need to adjust those ranges. So, what the Sommelier chain will do, and what we're building right now, is the validators are voting on sort of like where the price is going in a sort of oracle pattern, as we were talking about earlier. And then, whenever they detect the need to change where the liquidity is deployed, they'll send a transaction over to Ethereum, which rebalances the liquidity. So, kind of like IBC for Uniswap. Also, the bridge will allow you to move tokens from Cosmos over to Ethereum as ERC20s. So this is the atoms on Uniswap feature. I'm going to get off of this call and go work on the bridge. So hopefully I have some more timelines for you guys in the next couple of weeks on that. But that's also an exciting piece of technology that undergirds a lot of what I'm working on, and will offer a lot of these really cool Ethereum interoperability features that I know people are excited about.
Yeah, and I think initially I wanted to make this call and this session today about Sommelier, but I think we'll do that another session when you guys are fully launching and going live. But sticking with the Gravity DEX, how does Gravity compare to other cross-chain DEXs, right? I think Thorchain is also releasing theirs. How does it differentiate to things like what Thorchain does?
Yeah, Adam is focused on IBC, and we're focused on the adoption and usage of that technology. Thorchain has gone in and built something that works really well, connecting to existing proof of stake block or proof of work blockchains, which is something that IBC explicitly does not do. So Thorchain is just going to bring in a different set of assets than are going to be showing up on the Gravity DEX. And I will also mention Thorchain is upgrading to IBC probably within the next quarter. There's a lot of performance benefits for them in doing so. So we will see all of those assets from Thorchain also be available over on the Gravity DEX potentially. What I always say about this is that when you open up trade between two previously closed economies, it increases the value of both of them. And I think that that's what we're going to see here with IBC as well. Like Thorchain has this specific niche in trading proof of work currencies on their chains that, is just a different competency from what the Gravity DEX offers, which is the ability to seamlessly use it via IBC.
Yeah, and that's actually one thing I find a bit unfortunate about the whole crypto space, because there's, everybody's working on their little project, but they're very ignorant, right? They don't explore leveraging real synergies, right? They say that, but they don't really do that. So I think Cosmos is one of those projects that actually does it, and then sometimes even gets, slammed on Twitter for, oh my God, it's not going up in value. Like, guys, chill.
These guys are idiots. Yeah, it's like, we did kind of see where the market was going years before it was happening, and we've got billions of dollars of deployed stuff on our technology. Like, you might think we're stupid, but we do have a plan.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the philosophy that I love, about Cosmos. It's about, it's very inclusive. It's very, let's work together and let's not, ignore or fight each other, because that's eventually the internet of blockchains that we're building, right? What does it bring if you have one blockchain that has a bunch of users, but it's kind of like an isolated island, right? What does it bring, right? You want to connect
Nothing.
with people. You want to,
it needs to like live within a broader ecosystem. And,
exactly,
we try to acknowledge that at a technology level, at this really, really deep level, and say, like, this is good. We shouldn't just flat out exclude everyone else. We can't just create this Bitcoin club or this Ethereum club where people can't join. That's not how we build a globally scalable monetary system. It's just not going to happen. But allowing it to be inclusive, allowing it to be focused on like the sovereignty of the different entities that are joining this. And, we're going to see countries and cities and large corporations create their own blockchains. And they don't want to be paying rent to Gavin. They want to be
Mhm.
in this truly global permissionless network of value transfer that we've created with IBC. And, we're about to see the fucking roof blow off this thing with the Gravity DEX. And I'm just really excited about that. So an exciting next month in Cosmos, and just stay tuned. I have a feeling we see a lot of accumulation in anticipation of that Gravity DEX. So I'm watching the price as well.
Yeah, I agree. I see it very similar, and I kept on stacking. It's really tempting for me whenever I see, Atom is on a dip. Like, I just see, like, what can I liquidate? What else can I liquidate? I want to buy some more.
Yeah.
Oh, we have one last question before we wrap it up, and that's from
Yep.
Nirav Patel. How does or how will cross-chain staking work, and how is that a game changer?
Yeah, so we did cover that a little bit more earlier, but when we're talking about the ability to launch projects on top of Cosmos, um, there are hundreds of projects that have launched their own validator sets. So, like, we've already found a lot of projects that sort of have the ability to do that. It is a fairly large lift organizationally. There's a lot of work that needs to be put in order to sort of do that. And then once the chain is live, you have to like work with those validators to do upgrades and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So like that is definitely challenging and one of the things that's kind of slowed adoption of Cosmos. But as we've seen, it really hasn't slowed it that much. Cross-chain staking is the ability to quickly launch a new chain and to avoid that whole go find your own validator set thing. And this is just going to allow projects to much more quickly launch into Cosmos. And this idea of kind of progressive decentralization, where you start off centralized and then slowly decentralize, this cross-chain staking really plays into that narrative strongly. And you can initially start renting security from the hub validator set and then branch off into your own validator set fairly seamlessly. So this is basically what cross-chain staking gives, and why so many people are excited about it, is easier to launch on top of Cosmos.
All right. Yeah. So I guess we covered a lot of things today.
We did.
And yeah, I hope there's a lot of value also for the listeners, for the viewers. Yeah, maybe you can share final things also that you're working on, or shill whatever you want.
Yeah.
Please do that.
Yeah, just check out Sommelier.finance this week. We're launching a new app to make it really easy to provide liquidity in Uniswap v3. If you go to app.uniswap.com right now and look at the pool functionality, there's a lot there, and it's slightly harder to use. Not slightly harder. It's way harder to use than Uniswap v2. So if you like providing liquidity for your favorite protocols and you want to do it on Uniswap v3, come check us out over at app.sommelier.finance. We're launching this week, and that's really exciting. We've got a lot going on there.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, I guess next time we talk, there's going to be another fully packed episode. So
yeah,
thanks.
Hopefully more Som next time. I can have way more stuff to talk about on the Som side.
Atom will be 3 digits.
Yes.
So yeah, man, thanks for being on.
If that happens, I'm wearing a bow tie. All right, I'll catch you later, Cryptocito. Thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Take care.